wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic Podcast. This is Steve coming to you from Conway, Arkansas. This is the third time I tried to record this episode today. Fate permitting, it will also be the last. So, we have finished the Enchiridion. Last time we talked a bit about setting your own rules for life. Just trying to make sure you understand your own values. Who are you? What do you value? What values do you have that are truly your own versus those that you think you should have because others have placed them upon you? Now, today I want to talk about something slightly different. And I'm not going to have all the answers today. I haven't spent weeks of research to bring you solutions to all of this, but it's something worth asking and to think about and to maybe do your own research on. And that is, how do we avoid being deceived? We can deceive ourselves, most assuredly, and we have, and we do. And we can be deceived by others. We can be scammed, manipulated, tricked. We can fawn over politicians that promise the impossible. We can send money to a prince in some far-off land who will send us millions of dollars if we only send them $100 today. You know, these sorts of things actually happen, and they happen all the time, and they happen to smart people. We can often blow things off like, well, they were old or they were just dumb. Well, intelligent people are some of the best at fooling themselves. And I will put a link to an article I read about that topic, about how very intelligent people can construct elaborate explanations, rationalizations for the stupid stuff they believe. And then they can believe them even though they are quite intelligent because they're good at constructing stories that seem plausible to them. We have to watch that because we're all capable of this. And so, first of all, I want to thank David for supporting the show as a patron on patreon.com/SundayStoic. Thanks for supporting the show and for writing such a nice email telling me he had gotten something useful out of the show. I know one of my life missions, as it were, is to be a useful human being, and as Duff said on the show, trying to make the world a little less stupid. Leave it a little less stupid than you found it. And I try that on my own life. I'm a biological instructor. I teach biology. I'm a university lecturer, and I feel like I have quite a bit of meaning in my life from that, helping to educate those, doing good in the world. And teaching about evolution and science in a state that, quite frankly, is one of the lowest states in terms of acceptance of things like evolution in the entire United States. And the United States itself is pretty close to Turkey in terms of Western nations and acceptance of evolution. So I think I'm doing an important job in an important place, and I think there's some meaning in that. And I also get some meaning from doing this show, and that's the kind of meaning I draw from when I'm trying to think of my rules for life. I want to nurture others, and I also want to ensure, though, that when I'm thinking about what's important to me, that I'm not deceiving myself, and that I'm not easily deceived by others. And I think back to times when I have been deceived. I'm trying to live a good life. I've always tried to kind of live a good life, even though that has meant different things at different points in my life. But as a young teenager, I remember we were I was with some friends at, where were we? The Oshkosh International Air Show. And my friends and I were away from my dad and some other, adults. And we were walking around through some airplanes or near a parking lot or something. And a guy walked in front of us, kind of cornered us, and started giving us some spiel about, I don't remember what anymore, but what I remember is some guy walking up, doing a little routine with us, and the next thing I know, I've handed him $10, and I have a hat in my hand that I don't really want to wear. And I'm like, how did I get talked into buying this stupid hat? And, that stood out to me as a crap. I can be manipulated, and I can I can also maybe give someone money to get out of an uncomfortable situation. But I need to think about this and try to avoid this. And I've had other situations where someone claims to have some problems and they need some money, and you don't quite believe them, and you don't know what to do. But, and I've had lots of situations where I've watched people fawning for politicians where I'm like, this person's full of crap. What is wrong with you people? You see others falling for things. It's easier to see others falling for things than it is to see yourself falling for things. And that's something that I think is unfortunate and true. So you may have to be extra careful when scrutinizing yourself, and even possibly rely on input from a mentor when you're worried that you may be falling for something. So on that note, let's go to our reading. Moral Letters to Lucilius, number 103, on the dangers of association with our fellow men, by, of course, Seneca.
Why are you looking about for troubles which may perhaps come your way, but which may indeed not come your way at all? I mean fires, falling buildings, and other accidents of the sort that are mere events rather than plots against us. Rather, beware and shun those troubles which dog our steps, and reach out their hands against us. Accidents, though they may be serious, are few, such as being shipwrecked or thrown from one's carriage, but it's from his fellow man that a man's everyday danger comes. Equip yourself against that. Watch that with a very attentive eye. There is no evil more frequent, no evil more persistent, no evil more insinuating. Even the storm before it gathers gives a warning. Houses crack before they crash, and smoke is the forerunner of fire. But damage from man is instantaneous, and the nearer it comes, the more carefully it is concealed. You are wrong to trust the countenances of those you meet. They have the aspect of men, but the souls of brutes. The difference is that only beasts damage you at the first encounter. Those whom they have passed by, they do not pursue, for nothing ever goads them to do harm, except when need compels them. It is hunger or fear that forces them into a fight. But man delights to ruin man. You must, however, reflect thus, what danger you run at the hand of man, in order that you may deduce what is the duty of man. Try, in your dealings with others, to harm not, in order that you be not harmed. You should rejoice with all in their joys, and sympathize with them in their troubles, remembering what you should offer and what you should withhold. And what may you attain by living such a life? Not necessarily freedom from harm at their hands, but at least freedom from deceit. In so far, however, as you are able, take refuge with philosophy. She will cherish you in her bosom, and in her sanctuary you shall be safe, or at any rate, safer than before. People collide only when they are traveling the same path, but this very philosophy must never be vaunted by you, for philosophy, when employed with insolence and arrogance, has been perilous to many. Let her strip off your faults, rather than assist you to decry the faults of others. Let her not hold aloof from the custom of mankind, nor make it her business to condemn whatever she herself does not do. A man may be wise without parade and without rising enmity. Farewell.
All right, so Seneca warning us about hanging out with others. We know we have to walk this balance as human beings. We have to be part of the cosmopolis. We have to go out into the crowd. We must have friends, but we're warned to be careful that we may actually pick up the habits of friends if our friends are of poor character. We have to be careful with that. We have to be careful about picking up the habits of others. But here, Seneca is saying we often spend a lot of time worrying about events that are just things that happen. Buildings falling down, tornadoes, earthquakes, fire. Things that are possible to happen. They may happen, but they're rare. And they often give us warning that they're coming. We can get out of the way. He says the true thing to really worry about and watch out for is the deceit of other human beings. Because they can walk up to you with a smile on their face and lie right to your face while looking you in the eye and taking your wallet. And so we have to remember that. And we have to try to remember, too, that they're human beings like us, and for whatever warped reason, they think they're doing the best thing for them. And we can say that's certainly wrong. So we should try once again not to hate, but to feel sympathy and attempt to help if possible, but not to fall for their lies. So we need to equip ourselves and have an attentive eye for the deceit of our fellow human beings. And then he says, but keep in mind, thinking about how we must deal with others helps us to understand our duty. We need to remember then that we should treat others as we wish to be treated, because that's the right thing to do, but also there's a greater chance, not promised, but a greater chance that we then will also be treated with some level of dignity. It's not guaranteed, but at least we will live a life free of deceit if we treat others as well as we can. We will do our part to put good out into the world. We can't guarantee what comes back. But he says you can always find refuge in philosophy. We have to study this stuff. And because everyone else is trying to climb the ladder, trying to get to the top, trying to be head of the company, trying to get grandma's money, trying to, do whatever they can to succeed in this world the way they think success is. If we instead are going down a different road, the road of philosophy, we're less likely to run into each other. If we're on the same path after the same goals, then we're going to bump heads with those around us. They're going to become angry with us. They're going to want what we have. So if we're on a different path, much like Epictetus, who says, hey, I had a fancy lamp. It's my fault. It was stolen. I'm going to get a crappy lamp, and then no one's going to want to steal it. In the same sense, you can say, well, I'm looking for peace and simplicity and contentment and to do good for my fellow humans. That's my path. You're not going to step on a whole lot of toes going down that path. Whereas if you're like, I want to be head of this company, I want to make $100,000 a year. I mean, that might be like peanuts to you, but I'm a college professor. I'm never going to see that kind of money. So on and so forth. So you're not going to step on a lot of toes if you are pursuing philosophy rather than worldly success the way it's defined by our society. But he says, remember, philosophy is like a paint thinner. We're going to use it to strip off our own layers of faults. We try to purify ourselves. We cannot use it as a lens to view others. We should not compare, compete, complain. Philosophy might be a tool that makes us feel like it gives us the justification to tell everyone else why they're doing the wrong thing. We might think, ooh, that's not right. They shouldn't do that. But ultimately, it's for you to say, I should make sure I don't do that. And if you are on speaking terms with a person, you could give them some advice, but don't be a preacher to them. Well, the Stoics would say that you're going to hell, right? That's not what we're here to do. We're here to live well. And more important than throwing out advice, which is cheap and often ignored, it's up to us to live the example. Like Epictetus talks about the sheep that eats grass and grows good wool. That sheep is showing how to live well. Whereas the sheep that eats all the grass, then walks up and vomits it up for its master, is not living well. It's showing, hey, look what I did. That's not the point of our lives. We have to be careful with that. We have to have action above words whenever possible. But he warns us, once again, don't let philosophy change you in such a way that you are a stranger in your own land, You don't follow any of the customs of those around you anymore. You want to be careful that you don't become disconnected. But at the same time, remember, you are internally, you're a little bit different. That doesn't mean you can't celebrate, Christmas anymore or whatever. But you may not really be wanting presents anymore. You may change the way you feel about certain things. But then lastly, he says, I like this, a man may be wise without parade. We can live well without having a podcast to try to, virtue signal or whatever. Hey, guess how cool I am, We can live well without showing it off. And we can show it off in the sense of how we live. But we don't want to be boasting it, like have a big "I'm a Stoic" sign on our car and stuff like that. You could always have a "Ask Me About Stoicism" sticker. If someone's like, "What's that?" That's one thing. But like, "Hey, look how virtuous I am. I'm better than you." That's not going to work, and it's not going to help anyone. So ultimately, what we're trying to think about here is how to avoid being taken in by others, hurt by others, deceived by others, and how to avoid deceiving ourselves. And one book I recommend you check out that has a little information on this that I read a while ago is it's called Psychotecture. I think Simon Drew interviewed the author of that text on his podcast. It's called, I think, Psychotecture Designing the Mind, something like that. It has some information on thinking about your thinking, correcting your thinking, and avoiding being manipulated by others was mentioned in there a little bit. But we're good at self-deception, first of all. Justifying dumb stuff that we believe, untenable stuff that we believe, stuff that feels good to believe but is not true. And that's based partially on biased information. We only look at things that back up what we think, and we don't consider the other side. So if we think a little bit more like scientists and try to prove our ideas wrong rather than always trying to prove them right, we have a better chance of overcoming that. We also often make quick deductions. We are lazy thinkers, even when we think we're thinking clearly. We make quick decisions, which are often wrong. And so I find that, like the guy trying to sell me a hat, or other things that I've fallen for, or that I've seen people try to get me to fall for, they want you to make a decision right here, right now. And it's over. You were just introduced to problem A. Hi, here's the problem. I need money for my car. I'm hungry, or I got this hat. It's for charity, whatever. They tell you a story, and they want you to act on it with money now. And they want you to act right away, and with a lot of money sometimes. So I like to say, even on the phone, someone might call and I'll say, "Do you have a website? I'd like to look at the website and consider donating then. I'm not going to donate right now on the phone." Or, "No, thank you. I don't feel comfortable giving you money," or whatever. Or you make something up. But it's not that you never give someone money. If someone looks hungry, you might buy them a sandwich or whatever. But it's when you're feeling pressure and it doesn't feel right. It feels like someone's trying to manipulate you. It's rushed. They have a story that sounds like BS, and it's not comfortable. You're like, "No, you're not gonna guilt trip me or intimidate me into handing you a little bit of money. It's just not gonna happen." That's an example. Or a politician is bashing on something or ranting about something, and then the next day they say they didn't say what they said yesterday, and their followers all believe them. And you're like, "Well, it's on video. They said that." "Oh, no, he didn't." But they talk themselves into believing whatever BS comes out of the mouth of fearless leader rather than what the facts say, and they're too lazy to watch the video. Or they're like, "Well, he didn't mean what he said." I hear that all the time from various things. So people can be tricked, manipulated so easily because people you want to believe, you want someone to believe in, and therefore you put on the rose-colored glasses and you put on headphones and you ignore everything except what confirms what you want to hear. Another thing that I've noticed and I've read about is that people often would rather die than be wrong. And I can see this in some people that I know who have had positions of power. Even when they're no longer in power, they're retired, they think they can't be wrong, they can't show weakness, they can't show that they don't know something, so they have to be right about everything. And that can lead to serious self-deception, as well as attempted manipulation of others. Another thing is that people often see being wrong, but being super like militantly sure of yourself, even though you're wrong, as a virtue. And we know that that's not the case. Epictetus even said so. His friend who decided he was going to starve himself to death for no good reason. There was no good reason there. And Epictetus is like, don't do that. That's stupid. And they go, well, I made up my mind. A lot of people would say, well, he made up his mind. He's sticking to his convictions. And Epictetus says, yeah, but your convictions are stupid. There's no reason for you to starve yourself to death. You're fine. Sticking to convictions, even without looking at the reasons behind those convictions, are a serious issue. So I'm going to post a link to an article from the New Yorker that I thought was interesting in the show description. It's about how smart people are the new stupid, because very intelligent people can construct false narratives that glue together various things and tell a story in their head that they can convince themselves is true, even though it's not true. It's not true at all, and a lot of us do this all the time. I'm susceptible to it. You are susceptible to it. Everyone is susceptible to it. And once again, it's easier to see it when others do it rather than when we do it. So think about ways that you could start, first of all, most importantly, of trying to catch yourself talking yourself into things that you don't really need. Like, well, for example, talking yourself into buying something that you don't really need. It won't make you happier. Or talking yourself into eating something you don't need to eat. Talking yourself into believing things that are false. Just because they're comfortable doesn't mean they're true. So think about that. And on the same side, think about how you then can avoid being manipulated by others. And part of that, I think, is having those sort of sets of basic guidelines for yourself, rules for yourself, or your basic values. Know what they are. Put them into words. Write them down. And if you know what they are, let's say you have like 5 core values. If someone tries to intimidate you and you know what they're trying to tell you violates one of those values, that's an automatic no. Not going to do it. Sorry. Bye. It helps to make some of this decision making more almost on autopilot, and the good kind of autopilot, the right kind of decision autopilot, rather than the going with the flow autopilot. Okay, well, all my friends gave money to this idiot selling hats, so I'll do it too. And if one of your values is I will only do things based on evidence, and you're like, you know what, you sound like you're giving me a run. What's the word I want to say? You're giving me some kind of story. I'm not gonna do it. Sorry. And maybe you've just you could have given $5 to this guy that would have gone to a great charity or something, but you don't know. You've never heard of this charity. The guy's real pushy. It's best to walk away. You can look up that charity online later if you want to give him some money, right? So take time, put time, once again, time between your own thoughts and your actions to think about your thoughts. Are they true? Are they false? As well as the intimidation of others. When others are trying to tell you something, sell you something, calling you on the phone, telling you a story, trying to get money from you. Think, what are the odds that this person is telling the truth? What is motivating them? And I wouldn't pay much attention to whether or not they look like they're lying or not, because good liars are good liars. But think about it. Think how comfortable you are with it. And I like to say, hey, you got a website? I'll look at it later. I'll donate if it looks right. Because a lot of times manipulation that I've seen is about money. But of course, the media, I'd hate to be like, the media, but the stuff you see on the news could scare you into acting a certain way. Is there an agenda there or not? Something for you to consider. What's your media source? You might be watching, if you watch Fox News in the States, you're going to get a definitely one-sided view of certain things. If you watch some other source, you're going to get the opposite side. And so maybe there's some more middle ground news source, or some people I know like to get their news from like the BBC about America, or some other source that's less biased, less entrenched in the American left-right system. So you can think about things you can do to help yourself become less biased over time. And if you have any input on this, let me know. SundayStoic@gmail.com. But I got to roll. I hope this episode was all right. Like I said, recorded a couple times. My son is just started kindergarten. He's in school now, got over COVID. I'm teaching this semester, and I'm finding our new schedule now that he's in school and everything. It's challenging to find time to record this podcast, because I used to sometimes have time when I could come home from work and he was still at daycare for an hour or two. I'd have a quiet house. But that's not the case anymore. So forgive me if you hear a kid running around or Scooby-Doo in the background. I don't own a studio, but if anyone wants to donate, 50, 60 grand, I'll build a studio in my house or on the outside here, and I'll be happy to do that. Darn, I'm not a good manipulator. I wish I was better at that. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You have a great week. Put some of this into action. Think about your thinking. Look for your own biases, and don't manipulate others if at all possible, and try not to manipulate yourself. Don't be manipulated by others, and don't forget to do good in this world. Seize the day. Carpe diem.
Thank you for listening to The Sunday Stoic. Become a member of the Sunday Stoic team. Earn rewards by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/SundayStoic. Contact the show by emailing sundaystoic@gmail.com. And as Steve always says, Carpe diem.